Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining, and welcome to another session of our Devon and Beyond series, where we take you through a variety of topics related to Oracle Cloud. Today's session is Navigating Business Success with Predictive Analytics. In this session, we'll explore the analytic services and tools available for you to use in Oracle Cloud. We will also address the entire analytics process, including data ingestion and modeling, data preparation and enrichment, visualization, collaboration, you name it, and we'll pretty much cover the entire thing. My name is Renu Bhatt. I'm a program lead with the Customer Enablement team, and today I'm joined by cloud engineers Len Lois and Olivia Foda as the main presenters. With that, have a great session, everyone. I'll hand it over to Len.
Thank you, Renu. Well, today we're going to be talking about analytics. For those of you who are really interested, not just in an overview of Oracle Analytics Cloud, but to really get a high degree of expertise, I do strongly recommend the Oracle University 40-hour training on Oracle Analytics Cloud. That's right. So in any case, we are going to go an overview of our analytics, and it's not going to be just for Oracle Analytics Cloud. What's happened in the last 5 years is pretty interesting with respect to the integration we've put together. So the key features we are going to talk about at a high level is going to be how to connect to your data, how to prepare it, how to transform it, how to model it, and probably more than you want to hear, but it's important about the machine learning that's embedded, because at every point of connection, preparation, transformation, and modeling, we've embedded machine learning. Again, I'm loath to talk about artificial intelligence, but it is a matter of looking at patterns and the kind of patterns that are available in your data and letting the machine do the work. The key element is threads are cheap now. When I started a long time ago, threads were not cheap. I was working on Crays and CDC machines, yeah, that long ago, and IBM machines. And as a government engineer scientist, my salary wouldn't last an hour against some of those machines. Fortunately, Ronnie Reagan was doing Star Wars, so we had some good budgets where I was at. But the point being is that that equation has flipped on its head. You are far more no matter what, even if you're a hotel worker in Boston, your salary, your work, you're more important than a thread of an x86 machine, much less an ARM machine. NVIDIA, that's got a little more of a cost per thread. But the point being, I think I've already belabored it. So we're going to talk about all those different aspects of it, embedding Oracle Analytics in your products and creating systems that you can work with over time. And then Olivia is going to give you a good basic demonstration of the tool.
So, Lynn, if you're planning a vacation, what would be the first thing you would think about?
Well, hopefully this wouldn't be the map I'd be using, but I'd be looking about where I'm going, how I'm going to get there, where I'm going to put things together. I actually was in the Air Force in a time when we actually did have to learn how to map read. We didn't have GPS yet. And I did a lot of night exercises in the Colorado mountains with this kind of map. But the thing is, you need to know the contour lines. You need to understand that the steepness of the slope might not be as easy as it looks on paper, and it makes a big difference in where you are and if the upperclassmen are going to find you. So the other side of it is, right, so but you had a map. And so this is the idea of going through your analytics as a map. What does the data give you? What's the information that you can discern from the data? And we're going to talk about this as not a matter of just going through the process, but getting better decisions. It doesn't, at one level, you can be expert at manipulating the tools, whether it be with Oracle's tools or somebody else's tools, or writing your own tools in Python or R. Any of those things are credible ways to create information out of from data. But what we're really looking for, what you're really looking for, what your management is really looking for, is for you to create actions. Give them information. So I put this together. So number one, This is one of those slides you can cut out and put up on the wall. We can connect anything. Your data center, other public data centers, our data center, doesn't really matter. The data can be relational or non-relational data systems. It can even be I'm sure my colleagues in the Fusion or our software as a service products, even in S-base. So all those we can connect to, and a little more recent, because everything's standard now, is this concept of a data lake. And I strongly recommend, if you're interested in developing systems going forward, that you look at the concept of the data lake. And it's not difficult to summarize. It's just taking anybody's object code, anybody object service. We call them buckets. Other folks call them other things. And it's supposed to be unstructured data, but the standard for S3 data is really 5 types. So it's pretty easy for the machine to understand what one of those 5 types are. So that makes it really easy to integrate your object store with your warehouses. And that's all a data lake is. So your self service, everything, you can do all this yourself. You can do your visualizations, your dashboards, your data blending. You can access it as a data scientist or a data engine or a data engineer. You can push through any of this aspect. Typically, this used to be all done through business analysis. Your MBAs, right, would put this together. Well, now you can do bits and pieces. You can be something of a little bit of everything, because you've got the machine learning to do the work for you, to use those threads. And then we do have a lot of advanced functionality. We take advantage of those threads. Number one, if it's in our data center, you get all of our secured and governed aspects of it. We've embedded different visualizations. We've done predictive analysis for you. We augmented analytics is just analytics with machine learning. We have all the natural language capability that's in there. We have large language models built in place. You can put it into any chat bot, and we have this is 6 hours in the university, right, on pixel perfect reporting. And that's the idea of even down to making sure that every pixel in the printing of the system, but also in the display is where you want it to be. So there's no ambiguity, or you don't accidentally create ambiguity by how you display your data. So the idea is, and this is from Gartner in 2021, right? So this is not a few years ago. It's used to be that we would take a lot of time to create these reports, and they'd be layered, and they'd be predefined data, predefined relationships, and you'd change the data at one end, and it would filter its way through and change the result, right? And now today, there's a lot more visualization than there was, and there's a lot more exploration, because again, there's a lot of threads that you can throw at the problem. You can do a lot of parametric optimization around the edges, if you will. You get the thing straighten up where you want to go, but now you can do a lot more what ifs around the local optimization. So that puts you in a good position. And then once you're you've got all that in place, you're going to be given good examples of dashboards, monitoring. You're going to get natural language queuing, so you don't have to be an SQL expert or a Python expert or a Java expert to ask questions. You just ask questions. And you can get it through AI now too. We have our own AI system that will create SQL out of your natural language querying systems, and then that gives you that position. Now, when I put this slide together, say 6 months ago, this was 2 to 5 years, but that was before the GTP revolution. I'd say this is more like 1 year to 3 years, depending upon what time and effort you want to put into it, what your company is willing to invest in making you successful, so that you get the augmented data stores, that you get the conversational analytics built into your models, that you get the digital assistant so that you can display it on your Android or your Apple phone, and you get suggestions to in user context at pointed decisions so that you actually make it actionable, right? Time to insight. And you will get pushback, by the way, at each one of those levels. Uh, because there's a lot of folks that have invested doing a lot of this for themselves and for management, and they've built their empire, so to speak, inside a company based upon what they can do that is unique. So it's a matter of making sure that you can pull this all together, fighting those barriers, bringing them in, making them allies instead of enemies in the process, showing them how that this will not diminish their capability, but it will actually enhance their importance. So it's a next system of it's like in the early 1980s, you started, well, mid 1980s, you started to have to learn Visual Basic for Excel, right? So just to get your job done. And then that was an expectation that you had that capability until Windows finally came out with good functions in their Excel. In any case, you have our current infrastructure, and then we have all our integration tools. We have all our data management tools that are available for you. And then you have our specific calling out of our products within OCI, data science, machine learning, data science, virtual machines, but basically NVIDIA based virtual machines if you choose. So you can start off, by the way, with just doing some simple adjustments to CODA, whether it be in R or Python, and then you can choose initially to do ARM, and then later you can when you're in production and speed becomes essential, and you've got everything where it's working, then you can go to NVIDIA. The key element about this is that whatever analytics tool you're using today, it's the same. So the core of Fusion Analytics, the core of NetSuite Analytics is now Oracle Analytics Cloud. It's all the same tools, all the same functionality. However, even if you're more familiar with BIEE, you can go to a classic display of BIEE if that is your preference. And if you've got 10 years working with BIEE, that might not be a bad place to start, right? So you want with Oracle Analytics Cloud. So we now call BIEE, by the way, Oracle Analytics Server, and it's on premise. It can't do everything you can do in the cloud because some of the data that we have in the cloud isn't available to you unless you manually link it to your server, your EE system on premise. But in any case, then the next generation services are all already here for you. We already have advanced LLMs for vision and speech, and anomaly detection is just whack-a-mole, right? Something that's different, you whack it, you take a look at it. And then, of course, if you got all this and you got language, then you can put it in a digital assistant or you can use it in forecasting. Nothing. So the simplify and unify is just saying that it's all the same thing. If you're using one of our products, it at its core has the same capabilities across the board. And this gives you, as a user, a lot of confidence that this has been well tested. We're utilized not only 20 years of BIEE, but it's also the fact that now all of our NetSuite analytics folks, all of our Fusion Analytics folks, everybody's using it, the new BIEE on premise with Analytics Server, as well as those that are using Oracle Analytics Cloud, are using the same functions, are there to report things, have things fixed in a timely manner, and report bugs and to help you get better. We have dedicated teams inside Oracle now that are in different geographic areas that will help you with analytics. Of course, that's part of the pre-sales process. We're a little, and you've got our team here that's going to give you an overview of what the capabilities are. We're not making you expert here. There's YouTube videos out there made by some of those other guys that will help make you expert in some respects. But again, the source is to go through the documentation, to work through the examples. none of the training is going to make you successful until you actually do something, right? That's just the nature of this business. By this business, I mean learning tools. So you've got these different capabilities. You notice even our warehouse, analytic warehouse, stretches across multiple services. And even this is incomplete because you get your Exadata warehouse as well. So for those folks that are looking at Exadata systems independent of any of these other specific products, you can have an Exadata warehouse separate from that. So it's good to have an Exadata data system on board as well, but it's mostly about what the hardware is underneath, right? So, and of course, these are the different features that are available to you. Data enrichment with machine learning, everything enrichment with machine learning. Again, we set up these threads for you to take your time away. So you can go have a cup of coffee, and when you get back, you're going to have a lot of suggestions. You're going to have some decisions to make about what you're going to have to do the first or second time you do this so that you can integrate it together. But after that, you can make it into a model, and you can set a time frame on when the data is rechecked against the model and whether still makes sense. If your model still makes sense, is the way you're attacking the data it still makes sense. So you have a lot of capability with this system. So it's augmented analytics cloud platform. That's a key element of the cloud is the fact that it's fully integrated into OCI so that all the security, all the policies, if you will, those of you who are familiar with policies and directions, who can access what, when, where, under what circumstances, and that goes right down to the data and to the uh, types of systems that you can set up in, because you can set it up so some of those threads can create additional systems depending upon the data requirements and the time frame that you put in place. So a lot of things that you can edit and create with this system and automate it. The key element is not your time, but use those threads. So it will help you with data preparation, the flow of the process through. It'll help you look at data enrichment, and that's looking at patterns, right, that are already there, and then deciding which columns, or helping you decide which columns make sense to put together and which columns don't make sense to integrate, and then adding additional data in there. Now, it's not going to know beyond what you give it, but if you give it access to different levels of data, if you write a scraper to scrape different aspects of data and give it access to different object stores out there, it will make some decisions for you. It will give you a parametric search and put that in place. So again, it's not anything but we talk about it as artificial intelligence. It's just a dumb box that does the same thing over and over again, right? And it will waste its time doing that. But it's really good with a little tweak here and there for you to gain more knowledge and more access to more kinds of data, right? So it gives you examples of how to do data visualization. It's going to give you automated forecast and insights based upon the decisions that you make based upon the patterns that are in your data. It's the nice thing about it being a service is it's self-upgrading, it's self-patching, and it's self-securing. So you don't have to do any of those things manually, periodically. As long as it's part of the service, we're doing it for you. We're keeping you up to date. What can we connect to? Just about anything. I mean, we do have Oracle integration cloud out there. We do have Golden Gate. I mean, we put that in there. So all those things are there for we've gone to Kafka as our real-time streaming capability, so you can integrate there. We have our data integration tools, our secure object storage, as mentioned, and we talk to other people's object storage that you give us permission to talk to. And of course, the structure is around autonomous warehouse, but it can be any kind of a warehouse. Their warehouse, our warehouse, your neighbor's warehouse. But the idea being is you have to have access to it and you can work with it. And then you have the capability of graph, spatial, you have machine learning embedded. And then this is reference to Apex and Visual Studio tools that are integrated with our stuff as well, right? So all that is there for you. The other thing for you to take a look at, if you haven't already, is vector search. Vector search is pretty cool mathematical technique that was developed with large language models with attention. The idea is that you create tokenization, if you will, of the sentence so that you can look back further and maybe even look back to the paragraph. So you're less likely less likely to be hallucinating, if you will, as you make the next guess of the next word in process. Take it a little bit in context. But the idea is that with the vector search, you create a vector about whether it be a anything. If there's some attributes, it will create a digital fingerprint of of those attributes of that whatever you're searching, and it will search against that series of attributes. It's just a comparison of tokens, right? But it's a pretty slick way of doing things now that we really weren't using prior to the work that was done with attention in large language models. It was out there, but it wasn't embedded like it is now in a lot of other systems. So take a look at that as well. And again, analytics, you got our analytics and our mobile as well, because anything you can put in a virtual machine, you can take the output of that and display it on iOS. Next generation of Android and Apple phones will probably do a lot of this on the phone itself, as well as touch the cloud to get the data. So, and you consume it in a variety of different ways, right? No, nothing magic there. So the journey, if you will, is you connect it, you prepare it, you transform it, you put it into a model so it can do things, and then you explore that. And you don't explore it. You might, but you also let the machine explore. And then based upon the predictions, the data and the patterns, it's going to be able to predict and classify data using multiple threads, right? So just replace machine learning with multiple threads. And it's going to be able to interact, consume highly specialized dashboards, which you get to edit. It's going to give you suggestions, but it's not going to do it for you. Get it pretty close, but it's going to put you in a position to place. So this is a good visualization of a way in which you can create connections or see the connections that are already there. It's just a REST API connection. It can, of course, go to Autonomous Data Warehouse, any of our tools, those other guys' tools as well. So it's not only AWS, but also Azure, Snowflake, and Google as well. So we've got new Google connectors in place. So anything that can connect. If it's data, we can put it together. And then you can see here, this is a pretty good visualization. Olivia is going to show you this in real time as part of the demo, but of how the machine will look at the different columns and look for methods of what columns are similar to each other. So it's and it's traceable, right? It's creating a script as going through in natural language that you can edit the next time through, and you can rename and transform columns. You can do data enrichment. It can put data quality and to identify errors, right? So it's going to be looking for things that aren't like everything else. It's going to whack that mole that pops its head out. So apply a script and change steps. It's going to be, and it's ideal for audit and compliance, right? So you've got all this record of what you've done. It's reproducible. You can show it to the compliance auditors that you're doing this right. You can do this internally, or if you're putting something up for the FDA, you can show that you really didn't fake the data. So transform, again, we're going to give you different methodologies to transform your data. We're going to use the filter using SQL queries, but you can also use natural language. It's going to show you how to ingest, clean, and transform. Again, it's going to look for anomalies. It's going to aggregate, split, union, merge, all those capabilities that you used to have to know SQL commands for. It's going to do a lot of these things for you and see what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. It's going to do sentiment analysis, and it's going to do forecasting as well. So it's going to model, it's going to show, and you can see you can do this yourself manually, put this in place. You can set up a script, take an example, set up a script similar to what way you want to get started. So it really is a system of methods that you can pull together that makes you more productive and allows you to make errors and then recover, right? What's the best way to be successful in this life is you've got to make mistakes and then get up after you fall down or get knocked down, right? So one of the things that really annoys my wife is I keep this huge piece of aluminum. It's almost the size. It's about 36 inches. It's a good sized piece of aluminum. I don't have it behind me here, but it's what it is. It's a tail drag from a C-130. When I was qualifying at an A-130 gunship, one of my last sessions, and I, by the way, passed this check ride, was to do a heavyweight, no flap landing at night. And there wasn't any weather. It was Florida, and I was in the reserves at the time, and so I everything, the IP was very pleased with my landing. Everything was good, and at the end, one of the linemen came in and showed me I'd scraped the bottom of the airplane, but I hadn't scraped the bottom of the airplane. I'd scraped off this piece of aluminum that cost nothing compared to the bottom of the airplane. So the idea as an engineer at the time, it made perfect sense to me. You engineer for error. You make things are going to happen that you're not going to expect. So one of the nice things about creating models, creating decisions, especially when it's in an area you're not expecting, you can pull this stuff together in a way that is going to be less likely to fail. It's going to be more resilient because you've already messed it up at least once, right? So that's why we do the things we did in training, because you know you're going to make mistakes. It's better to make mistakes in training, and that's why the IP gets blamed for it. I didn't. the only that's another story. All right, explore data using auto insights. So a lot of visualizations and looking for patterns is just repetition. It's parametrics. What's it going to look like in this presentation versus that presentation? One of the first companies I worked for was Silicon Graphics coming out of the laboratory. And a lot of time was spent in doing this manually in GL graphics language, now called OpenGL, and NVIDIA calls it something else entirely. But anyway, the idea is that you, instead of having to do this yourself, you can program it to do it, and it will do it for you, and it will investigate some of those parameters. Like I said, drag and drop machine learning, multiple machine learning pre-built algorithms. There's only a few problems out there that are really in different areas. This changes depending upon the area of concern that machine learning works in, right? So I've got a slide I'm going to show you that there's essentially 4 or 5 columns. And each one of these columns, depending upon the kind of problem there is, there's a machine learning algorithm that works. So what does this machine do with all these threads? It decides based on the data which column you're in, and then it runs through all the different items in that column, algorithms in that column that might solve your problem. And then it rates them based upon the performance against the criteria which you set up. And it'll also give you some suggestions on that criteria based upon the kind of problem it is and the algorithm that's being used. So it does a lot of that work for you that you don't have to memorize or look up. So going deeper, it allows you to embed this. If you can put it up, you can embed it in different products that you might have, right? So, and it gives you ability to make custom analytic application experiences for your team. It gives you sparks curiosity. You can do all this fairly easily, right? Now you can use your brain a little bit, not just the threads, and start asking what if questions beyond the what if solutions that the machine is going to do for you. And also allow your boss or the real decision makers to come back and ask some points too. They didn't understand what you did for them. So with what we do is we give you these different capabilities. We embed functions in the API gateway, so it gives access to different tools in place and then displays it as well. So in a custom app or on a browser, right? So this is my promised slide. So here's some data flow operations, data ingestion, data preparation, machine learning, and database analytics. You see inside the machine learning, there's train the numeric prediction, train multi-classifier, train clustering, train binary classification, apply the model. Each one of these has a limited number of choices, right, in here that it's going to go for based upon the data set. All that's embedded. Now, I give you this slide. Wasn't standard, but it gives you a feel for most of the icon. So again, this is something for you to cut out or put up on a slide so you can look at it. But the best way, frankly, to get used to this is actually use it, right? So it makes sense. Some of these are pretty obvious, but some of them aren't. And here, the different algorithms, as I mentioned before, for the different types of problem solving. And we've added to this too. So we've got a another boost in here. Where would that go? But in any case, it's out there as well. So we're constantly adding to these solutions under different problems. Visualizations, we got them all. Again, we're going to give you ability to cut and slice, dice. We're going to give you ability to integrate these visualizations from one to the other. And I'm going to give it over to Olivia and let her show you some actual demonstration here, show you the product itself.
Thanks, Lynn. All right, so hopping into the console, I'm going to show you how to get started with Oracle Analytics Cloud, or OAC, and some of the key features that Lynn showcased in the slides. So to get started, you go to Analytics and AI right here, and then you'll see Analytics Cloud. And then from here, you can go ahead and create an instance. So I already have one provisioned right here, but I just want to show you how that would work. So you give your OAC instance a name, description, and then as with any resource that you're creating in OCI or Oracle Cloud, you need to specify in which compartment that resource will reside in. So I've done that here. Next, for capacity, you need to specify the capacity type. So you can do the number of OCPUs you want to deploy for your service. And you'll see right here, the OCPU counts that you can choose from, and you can see what the scalability is. So between 1 and 8. So 1 is non-production. You can even go up to 52 OCPUs, but scalability is not available. So you can go up to that amount. You can also specify the number of users expected to use this service. So if you want to do it that way, and you can see what the range is here. So you need at least 10 users, and you can do up to 3,000. So if I try to do like 4,000 or something, it will give me an error there. Or on the other end, I tried doing 9, I will need at least 10. So you can do your capacity type right here based on the demand. You can also do license and addition. So license included, or you can do bring your own license. And then you can also do addition. So with Enterprise Edition, you get modeling, reporting, and data visualization. There's also the Professional Edition. So this is more with data visualization. So you have these 2 different options here. And then you can go ahead and create your instance to get started. So right here, we have the enterprise edition. So data visualization, modeling, all of that's going to be included. I'm just doing one OCPU, but you can do this based off users or OCPUs, and you can specify the number. And then once you have your instance provision set up, you can launch the analytics homepage. So I'm going to do that here. And you can see that there's already some data populated here because I've been working with OAC, so I can see what's new. I can see any workbooks where I've generated some charts and some diagrams already. Already uploaded some data sets, and as Lynn mentioned, it could be uploading a file, or you can connect to your autonomous database. So we have some examples here of some data sets that I've been working with. You also have data flows, so different types of models that you can apply to your data. So like linear regression, AI, there's a few other examples. So we'll take a look at that later on, and also machine learning. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and go to create right here. So first off, I'm going to want to have my data set uploaded, so the data that I want to work with. And what I did for today is I have an expenses Excel file. So I just dragged and dropped it here already. So that's kind of one way of working with your data. And then you can also create a connection, and there's many different connection types as we saw in the slide. So Oracle applications, if you have your Oracle Autonomous Database, for this, you would just need to download your wallet and a few other informations to connect. Oracle database, there's Essbase, Amazon Redshift. So you can select the way that you want to connect to your data right here. You have many different options for doing so. So that's the first step, having your data set up and ready. So as I mentioned, I already have a data set already uploaded right here. So it's around expenses. So I'm going to click into that. And when you click into your data set, you'll see that there's 3 different tabs at the top. So one on the left-hand side is more for working with your data. As Lynn mentioned, if you want to make any enrichment to your data, any of those recommendations or changes, you can do so here. And visualize, where we'll be working next, is more of where you can drag and drop the different fields in your data to visualize it. And then lastly, you can put it in presentation mode, kind of. So let's go to data first. I'm going to go ahead and click into that. So we can take a look at the expense report data. So it shows all the different columns that we have. So expense ID, date, employee. And if you click on each specific column, if there's any recommendations, you'll see that listed here on the right-hand side. So if I go to a date right here, we'll see that there's some recommendations. So if I want to implement that, I could click it to go ahead and implement that. And a few other things you could change for your columns is if you want to treat it as an attribute measure. So the data type is date. So you might want to just check that is treating it as a date, or it could be number or text. And then you can also change the format for the date. So if you don't want this format, you can go ahead and change that. So we can make some changes to your data here. So yeah, if you go to employee, similarly, you'll have some recommendations here that you can implement. Once again, you can make some changes to that. And you also have a chart breakdown right here of your data. You can go ahead and use some filters, or if you go right here, you can make some modifications. So rename, duplicate, convert to date, number, uppercase, lowercase. So you can even edit it or delete it. But this is where you can make a lot of those different changes, or you can even go to the join diagram to kind of map your data if you want. So this kind of goes back to the slide, so you can work with your data that way as well. All right, so let's go back to expenses right here. So once you've made some changes to your data right here and everything looks good to go, you can start, making some visualization. So let's say I want to know some information about employee expenses. So I'm just going to drag and drop the employee table right here. And it's created a table format so far. You don't just have to do table if you want to do a chart or something. You can see the different ways of visualizing your data. So I can change this to be like a table, but of course I need more data here. So I'm going to put expense amount, and you can kind of see the employee expense amount right here. And then if you want to break it down even further, let's say I want to know maybe about by department as well. You can see it's kind of broken down the expense by employee and also by the department. And then if you kind of want to add maybe a legend or something, you can just do like employee in this field and it'll kind of color code everything. So those are just some examples of how you would create your visualization. So this is just one canvas, so you can rename it employee expenses or something. And then you can add another canvas. So once again, you could drag and drop destination country, and then you could change this to be like maybe a map or something, and then you can drag and drop the different fields right here. So if you want to know like employee expenses or something, you drag it into the map here. And then this is how you'd create those different charts for visualizing your data. And then once you're done with that, you can go to present mode right here. And then you can go ahead and save everything. So you can go right here and save it. So yeah, you'll see this right here, and you'll kind of see it's in present mode. So you can go to Canvas 2 right here. And then if you want to revert or undo any changes, you can do this undo button right here. But yeah, that's essentially how you get started. So you'd first upload your data set. So in this case, I did Excel file. And then from there, you can make changes to your data and view it. And then you could create different visualizations, and then you could go ahead and present it. I do have some other workbooks right here or visualizations that I've saved. So this is destination country, expense amount per quarter. So you can kind of see right here the breakdown per quarter. If spend is about the same, or maybe it's a little bit lower. As you can see right here, that France more or less stays the same. Spain has a lower quarter in Q3. So you can kind of see the breakdown right here. There's different, charts that you can create. And then I create another chart right here. So expense amount by country. And then I also broke it down by department. So you can see probably for sales, you might expect this to be a little bit higher. So you can see it's the same trend for the different countries here. And then maybe marketing's on the lower end. So you can see the breakdown here. And these are just some examples. There's a lot of different things that you can, do with your visualizations. You can also create a data flow for working with your data. So this is bike renting data right here. So there's different things that you can apply to your data, select some columns, train a numeric prediction model to this. You could save it. So you can also do train clustering, apply AI models. There's a lot of different things that you can do with your data and data flow, add columns, select columns, rename, all this right here. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had to show for Analytics Cloud. If there are any questions in the
Saw the one was already answered with respect to the number of OCPUs recommended. Got to remember that OCPU is 2 threads, and it's 2 threads now is running at around 25, 2.5 gigahertz. So you can't type that many that fast. And the machines, even though it's using partial, that's why we can say 40 concurrent folks with one. So it's just something to, or two, excuse me, two OCPUs. So it's not unrealistic. But if you're going to be using really large data sets, that would be a minimum recommendation. So in any case, things to remember, we can connect anything. We can leverage different bits and pieces with our machine learning capability for preparation, connections, calculations, and utilize advanced functionality for key features such as machine learning. And remember that we do have these algorithms available for you, and AutoML is a tool that's open, and it will go through and do this a recognition of the kinds of problems that are your data recommend, so to speak. The fact that your data is that type, you're looking for it, it's going to recommend one of these columns, and then we're going to the machine is going to go through and start out with small sample sizes and run through each of the different algorithms, and then based upon its progression, it's going to focus on a particular solution based upon the criteria you set, but also the criteria that's natural for this kind of a problem and these kind of algorithms. So it does a lot of that academic work, if you will, for you in that respect. You don't have to be expert. It's good if you are, and you will become by using it and becoming more experienced in working with it in the kinds of problems that you're working with. You will become your own machine learning device, right? You'll be your own pattern recognition machine.
So our next session is Oracle Cloud Adoption Framework on September 17th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So we will cover the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI Cloud Adoption Framework, which is a comprehensive collection of cloud resources, best practices, technical guidance, and enablement tools. So we hope to see you all then. Thanks, everyone.